Marcus Chen sat in his usual spot at the back of the classroom. He kept his head down while Professor Velthara talked about the upcoming test. The professor was tall and blue, with 6 arms that moved like water when she spoke. Her voice made a soft humming sound that meant she was excited. Around Marcus, his classmates whispered to each other. Some looked scared, others seemed excited. The Altarian twins sat near the front. They looked like living crystals and talked to each other without making any sound. Their minds were connected somehow. Behind them, Zixtar clicked his sharp claws on his desk. He looked like a giant bug, but was actually very smart. Marcus had been at the academy for 3 years. In all that time, he had never raised his hand in class. He never joined study groups. He never talked about his home planet when others shared stories about theirs. When asked, he would just say he came from a small farming world and change the subject. Most of his classmates thought he was boring. Some thought he might be stupid. Marcus preferred it that way. It was easier to stay quiet and listen. The planetary survival examination, Professor Velthara announced, will take place on Kronos Prime. The room went silent. Then everyone started talking at once. Marcus had heard of Kronos Prime. Everyone had. It was famous for being one of the most dangerous worlds in known space. The Academy used it to test their best students. Many who went there never came back. "This can't be right," said Elena 9. She was part of a group mind that shared one body. Usually she was very calm, but now her voice shook. "Kronos Prime is a Class 7 death world. The survival rate is only 30%. Professor Velthara raised 2 of her arms for silence. "The examination is required for all final year students. You have 1 week to prepare. Those who wish to withdraw may do so now." Half the class raised their hands immediately. Marcus just sat there and listened. He pulled out his data pad and made a note about the test date. For the first time in 3 years, something about the academy felt familiar to him. Zixtar turned around in his seat. His big black eyes looked worried. "Marcus, you're not dropping out." Marcus shook his head. "No." "But it's Kronos Prime," whispered Gentara, a small cat-like being from the Vegan system. "My cousin went there 2 years ago. She had nightmares for months after they brought her back." Marcus nodded but didn't say anything. He had nightmares too, but they weren't about dangerous planets. They were about quiet, safe places where nothing ever happened. After class, Marcus walked to the library. It was huge, with floating platforms that could take you to any level. Books and data crystals floated in organized groups throughout the space. Most students used the computer terminals, but Marcus liked the old paper books. He found what he was looking for in the restricted section. The Academy kept detailed records of every test location. Kronos Prime had files going back 50 years. The planet was bigger than most worlds, with gravity that was 30% stronger than normal. The air was thick and humid. Temperatures could drop to minus 40 degrees at night or rise to 60 degrees during the day. The weather changed fast and without warning, but it was the life forms that made Kronos Prime truly dangerous. Everything on the planet had evolved to kill something else. The plants were poisonous. The animals were aggressive. Even the insects could inject deadly toxins. Marcus read through reports of previous tests. Students died from animal attacks, poison, falls, exposure, and starvation. Some just disappeared completely. As he read, Marcus felt something strange. He wasn't scared. He should have been terrified like his classmates, but instead, he felt excited? No, that wasn't right either. He felt ready. The next day, Professor Velthara handed out preparation materials. Each student received a survival pack with basic supplies, food for 2 weeks, water purification tablets, a simple shelter, medical supplies, and an emergency beacon. "The beacon is for life-threatening emergencies only," the professor explained. "Using it means you fail the test, but you live. Choose wisely." Marcus examined his supplies carefully. The food was standard military rations. The shelter was a basic dome that could protect against weather. The medical kit had bandages and basic medicines. Everything was designed for short-term survival. His classmates spent the week studying survival manuals and attending special training sessions. Marcus attended the sessions too, but he found them strange. The instructors taught them to avoid danger, to hide from predators, to wait for rescue. On Earth, his grandfather had taught him different lessons. "Don't run from what scares you," the old man had said. "Learn about it. Understand it. Then decide if you should fight it or use it." Marcus began making small changes to his gear. He took apart the medical kit and reorganized it. He practiced with the water purification tablets to see how they worked. He studied the food rations to understand their nutritional content. When Zixtar saw him working, the bug-like alien asked, "What are you doing?" "Getting ready," Marcus replied. "But the instructors said we should just focus on basic survival." Marcus looked at his classmate. Zixtar was from a world where the most dangerous animal was about the size of a house cat. His people had never known hunger or real danger. They were smart and kind, but they had no idea what survival really meant. "Basic survival might not be enough," Marcus said quietly. The night before the test, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in his small room and thought about home. He remembered camping trips with his father in places where grizzly bears and wolves roamed freely. He thought about swimming in oceans where sharks hunted in the darkness below. He remembered the feeling of being truly alive that came only when death was a real possibility. His classmates were probably awake too, but for different reasons. They were scared of what might happen to them on Kronos Prime. Marcus was worried about something else entirely. He was worried about what might happen to Kronos Prime when he got there. For 3 years he had worked hard to be quiet, to be normal, to be forgettable. Tomorrow, on a world where everything was designed to kill, that was going to change. Tomorrow, Marcus Chen was going home. The transport ship was quiet except for the hum of engines. 23 students sat in their seats, all that remained after half the class had dropped out. Marcus looked around at his classmates and saw fear in their eyes. Elena 9 was running diagnostics on her equipment for the 5th time. Her mechanical fingers moved quickly over her gear, checking and rechecking everything. She was part of a collective mind that shared information instantly, but here she was alone, and that scared her. The Altarian twins, Nal and Val, sat together holding hands. Their crystal bodies glowed softly when they were nervous. Right now, they were almost blinding. They had never been apart from their home crystal network. On Kronos Prime, they would be cut off from everything they knew. Zixtar practiced with his hunting equipment. His people had advanced technology that could track prey from great distances, but all their prey was small and harmless. The biggest predator on his world was the size of a rabbit. Marcus watched them all and felt something he had never experienced at the academy. He felt protective. These were good people, but they had no idea what they were walking into. The ship's captain, a gruff bear-like creature called Captain Vork, came to talk to them. "Listen up, students. We'll reach Kronos Prime in 6 hours. Once we drop you off, you're on your own for 30 days. The extraction point is 200 kilometers north of your drop zones. Get there in one piece and you pass." Gentara raised a small paw. "What if we don't make it?" Captain Vork's expression softened slightly. "Then we come looking for your emergency beacons. But remember, using the beacon means you fail." "What's the death rate?" asked Elena 9. The captain was quiet for a moment. "In the last 10 years, about 40% of students who attempt the test die or disappear completely. Another 30% trigger their beacons within the first week." Marcus felt his classmates' fear grow stronger. But he felt something else, too. For the first time in years, he felt like himself. When they reached orbit around Kronos Prime, Marcus looked out the window at the planet below. It was beautiful in a deadly way. Green and brown continents were covered in thick clouds. Lightning flashed constantly in the atmosphere. The oceans were dark and rough. "Looks angry," muttered Zixtar. "Looks alive," Marcus said quietly. The drop pods were small one-person vehicles designed to get them safely to the surface. Each student was given their final supplies and a quick briefing on their drop zone. Marcus got his coordinates and studied the map. He would be landing in a forest region near some mountains. The area was known for having large predators and poisonous plants. Most students who landed there either died or triggered their beacons within days. "Good luck, humans," said Nal, using the word his people used for any bipedal species. Marcus almost smiled. If only they knew. The drop was rough. Marcus's pod shook violently as it hit the atmosphere. When it finally landed, he was thrown against his restraints hard enough to bruise. But he had experienced worse turbulence on commercial flights back on Earth. He stepped out onto the surface of Kronos Prime and took his first breath of alien air. It was thick and humid, full of strange smells. Some were sweet, others sharp and chemical. His training told him to be careful of unknown atmospheric conditions. His instincts told him he was home. The forest around him was dense and dark. The trees were massive, some reaching hundreds of feet into the sky. Their bark looked rough and sharp. Vines hung everywhere, some thick enough to climb, others thin as wire. Marcus could hear sounds in the distance, howls and roars and clicking noises he couldn't identify. According to his briefing, most of those sounds came from things that would try to eat him. He set up a basic camp near his landing pod. The academy had taught them to stay near their drop zone for the first day to get oriented, but as Marcus looked around, he realized staying here would be a mistake. The landing had made noise. It had probably attracted attention. In a place like this, attention meant danger. Marcus packed his gear quickly and efficiently. He had learned long ago that in dangerous places, you never stayed anywhere long enough to become predictable. As he worked, he noticed things his classmates probably wouldn't. The way certain vines moved without wind, the patterns in the dirt that showed where animals had walked, the smell in the air that meant something large had marked its territory nearby. He finished packing and started walking north toward the extraction point. But first, he made a detour to a small stream he had spotted from his pod during landing. Water was life, but it was also danger. Predators knew this too. They watched water sources and waited for prey to come drink. Marcus approached the stream carefully. He moved quietly, stopping often to listen and smell the air. When he reached the water's edge, he found tracks in the mud. Big tracks. Something with claws the size of his fingers had been here recently. Instead of running away, Marcus knelt and studied the tracks. 4 legs, each with 5 claws. The stride pattern showed it was heavy but moved quickly. Based on the depth of the prints, it probably weighed about 300 pounds. Back home, Marcus had tracked black bears that left similar signs. This creature was bigger, but the principles were the same. Know your predator, and it becomes just another part of the environment. He filled his water containers and added purification tablets. Then he did something that would have horrified his instructors. He followed the tracks, not to hunt the creature, but to understand it. Where did it go to rest? What did it hunt? What were its patterns? The tracks led him to a cave about half a mile from the stream. The smell coming from inside was strong and unpleasant. Old bones were scattered around the entrance. This was definitely a predator's den. Marcus made careful notes about the location and behavior signs. Then he retreated to a safe distance and found a good place to observe. He spent the rest of the day watching and learning. The creature emerged twice, both times moving toward the stream. It was huge and covered in dark fur with patches of natural armor. Its head was massive with teeth designed for tearing. His classmates would have seen a monster. Marcus saw patterns, behaviors, and ultimately, predictability. As night fell, Marcus set up a small camp far from both the stream and the cave. He built a tiny fire that gave just enough light to work by. Then he began modifying his equipment. The academy had given him tools for survival, but Marcus needed tools for living. He took apart some of his electronic equipment and used the parts to make better tools. A sharp edge here, a stronger grip there. His grandfather had taught him that survival was not about having the best gear. It was about understanding your environment and adapting to it. As Marcus worked, he listened to the sounds of Kronos Prime's night hunters. In the distance, he could hear his classmates' emergency beacons starting to activate. One, then another, then 3 more in quick succession. Marcus felt sad for them, but not surprised. They were trying to survive in a place that demanded more than survival. It demanded you become part of it. He finished his work and settled in for the night. Tomorrow, he would begin the real test. Not the Academy's test of whether he could reach the extraction point alive. His own test of whether he could remember how to be human. On a world where being human meant being the most dangerous thing in the forest. Marcus woke before dawn on his 3rd day. The forest was still dark, but he could hear the sounds of night hunters returning to their dens. Soon, the day shift would take over. He had traveled 40 kilometers in 2 days. According to his map, most students would still be setting up base camps near their landing zones. Marcus was already a quarter of the way to the extraction point. He packed his gear silently and checked his modified equipment. The knife he had made from scrap metal was sharp and balanced. The traps he had built could catch small game for food. The simple tools he had crafted worked better than the expensive academy gear. As he walked through the forest, Marcus felt more alive than he had in years. Every sense was alert. Every muscle was ready. This was what it meant to be truly awake. Behind him, emergency beacons continued to activate throughout the night. 7 more students had given up since yesterday. That left 16 still active, including Marcus. He wondered how his friends were doing. Zixtar was probably hiding in his shelter, afraid to come out. The Altarian twins were likely paralyzed by their separation from the Crystal Network. Elena 9 would be running constant scans, trying to use technology to solve problems that required instinct. Marcus hoped they would be okay, but he knew that hope was probably useless here. Around midday, he found signs of another student. Broken branches, disturbed ground, and the faint smell of academy rations. Someone had passed this way recently, moving fast and carelessly. Marcus followed the trail for an hour before he found her. Jenna Tara was trapped on a high branch about 30 feet up a massive tree. Below her, 3 large predators circled and waited. They looked like the creature Marcus had studied near his landing zone, but smaller and hungrier. The small, cat-like student was crying softly. Her emergency beacon was in her hand, but she hadn't activated it yet. Marcus studied the situation from a safe distance. The predators were focused on their trapped prey. They hadn't noticed him yet. He could walk away, continue to the extraction point, and pretend he had never seen her. That would be the smart thing to do. The safe thing. Instead, Marcus picked up a rock and threw it hard at the base of a nearby tree. It made a loud cracking sound that echoed through the forest. All 3 predators turned toward the noise, their ears pricked up and their muscles tensed. They were trying to decide if this new sound meant danger or opportunity. Marcus threw another rock, this time in a different direction. The predators looked confused. They were pack hunters, used to dealing with prey that ran in panic. They didn't know what to make of sounds coming from multiple directions. One of them started moving toward Marcus's hiding spot. When it got close enough, Marcus stood up slowly and let it see him. The creature stopped and stared. Marcus stared back. On Earth, his grandfather had taught him about eye contact with predators. Some you never looked at directly because they took it as a challenge. Others you stared down to show you were not prey. Marcus had learned to read the difference in their body language. This creature tilted its head slightly. the way a dog does when confused. Its ears were forward but not flat against its head. Its muscles were tense, but not in attack position. This was not an animal that saw him as prey. This was an animal that was trying to figure out what he was. Marcus took a slow step forward. The creature took a step back, another step forward, another step back. Marcus picked up a large branch from the ground and held it like a club. He didn't swing it or threaten with it. He just held it casually, like it was a natural part of him. The predator's ears went flat. It made a low growling sound, but there was uncertainty in it. Its packmates had stopped circling the tree and were watching this strange interaction. Marcus smiled. Not a friendly smile, but the smile a predator makes when it knows it has won. He raised the branch over his head and brought it down hard on a fallen log. The wood exploded with a crack like thunder. All three predators jumped backward. Then Marcus did something that would have seemed insane to his academy classmates. He roared. Not a human shout or yell, but a deep, primal roar that came from somewhere ancient inside him. It was the sound early humans made when they claimed territory, when they warned other predators that this land belonged to them now. The three creatures looked at each other, then at Marcus, then at each other again. They were having a conversation in a language older than words. The largest predator took a step toward Marcus. Its lips pulled back to show long teeth. Marcus didn't move. He just stared into its eyes and let it see something that lived behind his own. The creature stopped. Its ears flicked nervously. After a long moment, it turned and walked away. The other two followed. Marcus waited until they were gone before climbing the tree to help Gentara down. "How did you do that?" she whispered, as he guided her to the ground. "They were going to eat me." "Maybe," Marcus said, "but not anymore." "You scared them away without using any weapons or technology. How?" Marcus helped her gather her scattered gear. "I showed them something they recognized." "What?" "Another predator." Gentara stared at him with new eyes. "What are you, Marcus?" "Just a human from a small farming world," he said, the same answer he had given for 3 years. But now they both knew it was not the whole truth. Marcus helped Gentara get oriented and pointed her toward the safest route to the extraction point. She was shaken, but unharmed. She would probably make it if she was careful. As he prepared to continue his own journey, his wrist communicator activated. It was a general message to all remaining students. "Attention test candidates. Due to higher than expected casualty rates, Academy rescue teams are being deployed to assist students in immediate danger. This does not affect test scoring for those who do not require assistance." Marcus checked his communicator's data. In 3 days, they had gone from 23 active students to just 12. More than half had either died or activated their emergency beacons. He felt angry. These were good people, smart people, brave people. But they had been trained for a universe that was safe and predictable. They had been taught that intelligence and technology could solve any problem. Nobody had taught them what to do when the problem was that everything around you wanted to kill you. Marcus looked north toward the extraction point. He was already ahead of schedule. He could take his time, travel safely, and arrive with days to spare. Or he could do something else. He pulled out his map and studied the positions of the remaining students. Based on their beacon signals, most were clustered in 2 groups. One group was moving slowly but steadily toward the extraction point. The other was stuck in a swamp region known for its acid pools and poisonous gas vents. The stuck group included Zixtar and the Altarian twins. Marcus looked at the map for a long time. Then he folded it up and started walking toward the swamp. His academy instructors would have called this stupid. Risking his own success to help competitors made no logical sense. But Marcus was not thinking like an academy student anymore. He was thinking like a human from a world where pack loyalty was the difference between life and death. He was thinking like someone who had spent 3 years watching his friends struggle in a universe that was too safe for them to learn how to survive. As he changed course toward the swamp, Marcus felt something shift inside him. The quiet, careful student was disappearing. Something older and more dangerous was taking its place. Something that had been sleeping for 3 years was finally waking up. Behind him, another emergency beacon activated. 11 students left now. Marcus picked up his pace. He had friends to save. Marcus reached the edge of the Thornwood Swamp as the sun was setting on his 5th day. The air here was thick with moisture and strange chemicals that made his eyes water. In the distance, he could see the glow of acid pools and hear the hiss of poisonous gas vents. His wrist communicator showed 3 beacon signals clustered together about 2 kilometers into the swamp. They weren't moving. That meant his friends were either trapped or too scared to continue. Marcus studied the terrain through his scope. The swamp was a maze of twisted trees, standing water, and unstable ground. Paths that looked solid could collapse without warning. The water itself was contaminated with acids and toxins that would kill most life forms in minutes. But it was the other signs that made Marcus pause. Tracks in the mud. Huge tracks. Something very large lived in this swamp, and it was territorial. Marcus had read about these creatures in the Academy files. The locals called them Thornwood Stalkers. They were apex predators that had evolved specifically to hunt in the swamp environment. 12 feet tall, 6 limbs, and covered in natural armor. They could move through acid water without harm and could track prey by scent from miles away. The files said they were intelligent. They used pack tactics and could set ambushes. In 5 years of testing on Kronos Prime, Thornwood Stalkers had killed more students than any other predator. Most Academy students would look at this situation and call for immediate rescue. The smart choice was to trigger his beacon and let the professionals handle it. Marcus set up a temporary camp and began to study his prey. For the next 2 days, he watched the swamp. He learned the stalkers' patrol patterns, their hunting schedules, their territorial boundaries. He mapped the safe paths through the acid pools and identified the areas where the ground was stable. The pack consisted of 6 adults led by a larger alpha male. They were smart, but their intelligence was specialized for their environment. They expected prey to behave in predictable ways: panic, run, hide, die. They had never encountered anything like Marcus. On the morning of his 8th day, Marcus began his approach. He moved through the swamp like he belonged there. When acid bubbled up from the ground, he stepped around it. When poisonous gas hissed from vents, he held his breath and kept moving. When the ground felt unstable, he found alternate routes. His grandfather had taken him through similar terrain in the Amazon basin. Swamps that could kill the unwary, where every step required attention and every sound could mean danger. The difference was that the Amazon had been trying to kill him by accident. Kronos Prime was trying to kill him on purpose. Marcus found the first stalker around noon. It was a juvenile, probably left on guard duty while the adults hunted. It was sleeping in the shade of a massive tree, its 6 limbs folded beneath its armored body. Marcus studied it for an hour. He learned how it breathed, how it moved, where its vulnerable spots were. He noted that its armor was thickest on its back and sides, but thinner on its belly and joints. When he was ready, Marcus picked up a stone and threw it into the water near the creature. It landed with a splash that echoed through the swamp. The juvenile's head snapped up. Its eyes scanned the area where the sound had come from. When it saw nothing, it settled back down but remained alert. Marcus threw another stone, this time from a different direction. Now the creature was fully awake. It rose to its feet and began moving toward the sounds. As it walked, Marcus saw how its weight distributed across its 6 limbs. He noted which leg it favored and how it balanced when moving through unstable ground. He was learning how to fight it. Marcus spent the rest of the day observing the entire pack. He watched them hunt, saw how they communicated, understood their hierarchy. By nightfall, he knew everything he needed to know. The pack expected prey. They would get something else entirely. Marcus began his assault at dawn on the 9th day, not with violence, but with psychology. He left signs of his presence in places where the stalkers would find them: broken branches that showed tool use, fire pits that proved intelligence, tracks that demonstrated he was moving through their territory without fear. The pack found his first sign within hours. Marcus watched from hiding as they gathered around the broken branches. They sniffed at the strange scents and made soft, chittering sounds to each other. These creatures had been apex predators for millions of years. Nothing in their evolutionary history had prepared them for something that left evidence of technology and intelligence, but refused to show fear. Marcus continued his campaign throughout the day. He led them on a maze through the swamp, always staying ahead of them, but leaving clear signs of his passage. He showed them that he knew their territory better than they did. He demonstrated that he could move through areas they considered impassable. Most importantly, he proved that he was hunting them. By the second day of his campaign, the pack's behavior had changed completely. Instead of patrolling their territory confidently, they moved in tight groups and constantly checked behind them. They had gone from hunters to hunted. Marcus decided it was time for direct contact. He approached the pack's main den in the early morning, when they would be least alert. The alpha male was outside, marking territory trees with his scent. Marcus waited until the creature was focused on its task, then stepped into view. The alpha male froze when it saw him. For a long moment, predator and human stared at each other across 30 feet of swamp. Marcus was not impressive by Thornwood's stalker standards. He was smaller than their usual prey, had no natural armor, and appeared to have no dangerous weapons. But there was something in the way he stood that made the alpha pause. Marcus was not behaving like prey. He was not showing fear or preparing to run. He was standing calmly in the alpha's territory, showing no signs of submission. Marcus slowly reached into his pack and pulled out a device he had built from spare electronics. It looked dangerous even though it was completely harmless. The alpha's eyes focused on the device. It took a step backward. Marcus smiled. Then he triggered the device. It made a loud electronic screaming sound and flashed bright lights. In the confined space of the swamp, the noise was deafening. The alpha male panicked. It had never heard anything like that sound before. Its first instinct was to attack, but something stopped it. This small creature was showing no fear, despite being outnumbered and outweighed. That was not normal prey behavior. Marcus triggered the device again, this time while moving slowly toward the alpha. He was not running or hiding. He was advancing. The alpha male made a decision that would have shocked any xenobiologist in the galaxy. It ran. The rest of the pack followed their leader. Within minutes, the swamp was empty except for Marcus and the confused sounds of creatures that had just discovered they were no longer the apex predators in their own territory. Marcus tracked the pack for the rest of the day to make sure they had truly left the area. Then he followed his beacon signals to find his trapped classmates. He found them on a small island in the middle of an acid lake. Zixtar was unconscious from breathing poisonous fumes. The Altarian twins were holding each other and glowing with terror. Their crystal bodies were cracked from stress. "Marcus!" Nal called weakly when she saw him. "Is that really you?" "It's me," Marcus said as he began building a bridge across the acid water using fallen logs and chemical neutralizers from his kit. "Sorry I'm late." "How did you get through the swamp?" Val asked. "The creatures that live here, they're impossible to avoid." "Not impossible," Marcus said as he helped them cross his makeshift bridge. "You just have to speak their language." "What language is that?" Zixtar asked weakly, as Marcus gave him oxygen from his emergency kit. Marcus looked back at the swamp, where 6 apex predators were probably still running from something they couldn't understand. "Fear," he said simply. As they made camp that night in a safe area outside the swamp, Marcus's friends stared at him with new eyes. The quiet student they had known for 3 years was gone. In his place was someone who could make the most dangerous predators on Kronos Prime run away in terror. "What are you really, Marcus?" Nal asked quietly. Marcus looked up at the alien stars and thought about home, about a world where everything wanted to kill you, and the only way to survive was to become more dangerous than everything else. "I'm human," he said, "and tomorrow I'll show you what that really means." Marcus and his 3 rescued classmates reached the extraction point 6 days ahead of schedule. The journey from the swamp had been almost easy compared to what they had been through. With Marcus leading them, they avoided every major danger and found the safest paths through the wilderness. Zixtar's breathing had returned to normal after 2 days of clean air. The Altarian twins had stopped glowing with panic, though their crystal bodies still showed stress cracks. All 3 of them watched Marcus with a mixture of gratitude and fear. The extraction point was a clearing on top of a high plateau. Academy rescue beacons marked the safe zone where students were supposed to wait for pickup. When they arrived, 2 other students were already there. Elena 9 was setting up monitoring equipment around the perimeter. She had survived by using technology to avoid rather than confront the planet's dangers. Gentara was there too, the small cat-like student Marcus had saved from the tree predators. She had made it through by following his advice and staying careful. 5 survivors, Elena 9 said as she scanned them with her medical sensors. Out of 23 who started, the Academy will not be pleased with these numbers. "At least we're alive," Gentara said quietly. She kept looking at Marcus like he might disappear if she stopped watching him. Marcus set up a camp away from the others and began maintaining his equipment. The modified tools he had created were showing wear from their use in the swamp. He worked quietly while his classmates talked about their experiences. They shared stories of close calls and narrow escapes. Everyone had seen at least one emergency beacon activation. Several had watched classmates die or disappear. The conversation was subdued and thoughtful. "How did you do it?" "Marcus?" Elena 9 asked suddenly. "My sensors have been tracking you since day 10. Your biometric readings don't make sense." Marcus looked up from his work. "What do you mean?" "Your stress levels, heart rate, oxygen consumption, everything suggests that you've been completely calm throughout this entire ordeal. Even when fighting those swamp predators, your readings showed less stress than I have during academy exams." The others were listening now. Zixtar nodded slowly. "She's right. When you found us in the swamp, you acted like this was normal for you, like Kronos Prime was just another day." "Maybe it is," Nal said quietly. "We've been wondering about your homeworld, Marcus. You always said it was a farming planet, but farmers don't usually know how to terrify apex predators," Val finished. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a decision he had been avoiding for 3 years. "You're right," he said. "I haven't been completely honest about where I come from." He pulled out his datapad and accessed files he had never shown to anyone at the Academy. Files about Earth. "My world is called Terra by most galactic catalogs. The Academy records listed as Terra 3 Classification Restricted Quarantine Zone. Most people think it's a contaminated mining world or a failed colony." Marcus showed them images from his home planet. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked peaceful and beautiful. "It looks nice," Gentara said, confused. "Look closer," Marcus said, scrolling through more images. Now they saw the hurricanes that could level cities, the earthquakes that split continents, the volcanoes that blocked out the sun, the ice ages that covered half the planet in deadly cold. "The geology is unstable," Elena 9 observed. "That's the easy part," Marcus said. He showed them footage of Earth's wildlife. Great white sharks that could bite through steel, grizzly bears that weighed 800 pounds, pack hunters called wolves that could run for days without stopping, crocodiles that hadn't changed in millions of years because they were already perfect killing machines. "These creatures are enormous," Zixtar whispered. "Some of them," Marcus agreed. "But size isn't what makes them dangerous." He showed them smaller animals. Spiders whose bite could kill in minutes, snakes that could inject enough poison to drop an elephant, insects that carried diseases capable of wiping out entire populations. "Everything on this world is poisonous or predatory," Val said in amazement. "Not everything," Marcus corrected. "Just enough to keep life interesting." He showed them plants that could strangle anything that came near them, mushrooms that were deadly to touch, trees that could cause blindness just from their pollen. "How does anything survive on this world?" Elena 9 asked. "By becoming more dangerous than everything else," Marcus said simply. He showed them the final files, images of humans throughout history, hunter-gatherers who tracked megafauna across continents, explorers who crossed frozen wastelands and burning deserts, soldiers who fought wars that lasted decades. "We didn't just survive on Earth," Marcus explained. "We conquered it. We became the apex predator on a world full of apex predators. We learned to hunt things that could kill us with a single bite. We developed tools and tactics that let us take down creatures 10 times our size." Marcus stood up and walked to the edge of the plateau. In the distance, they could see Kronos Prime's dangerous landscape stretching to the horizon. "The Academy thinks this is a death world," he said. "And it is, by the standards of most civilizations. But compared to Earth, Kronos Prime is like a nature preserve." His classmates stared at him with new understanding. "You're not just human," Elena 9 said slowly. "You're from a world that makes Kronos Prime look safe." "That's why you weren't scared," Zixtar added. "This place feels familiar to you." Marcus nodded. "I've been camping in places more dangerous than this since I was 8 years old. My grandfather used to take me to hunt predators that would consider those swamp creatures to be snacks." A sound in the distance interrupted their conversation. The Academy rescue ships were approaching. As the ships landed, Marcus watched his classmates' faces. They were looking at him like they had never seen him before. The quiet student who had sat in the back of their classes for 3 years was gone. In his place was something that had evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill you. Dean Admiral Korthax stepped off the lead ship. He was an impressive figure even by Academy standards, a veteran of dozens of campaigns. He looked around at the 5 survivors and shook his head sadly. "Worst survival rate in Academy history," he said. "We'll need to review our testing procedures." "Sir," Elena 9 said, "I think you need to review something else first." She handed him her scanner data showing Marcus's biometric readings throughout the test. The dean studied the information with growing amazement. "These readings show virtually no stress response. Either your equipment is malfunctioning, or what?" Marcus asked. The dean looked at him carefully. "Or you're some kind of enhanced super soldier. What's your background, Student Chen?" Marcus handed him his datapad with the Earth files still open. The dean's expression changed as he read. First confusion, then amazement, then something that looked like fear. "Terra 3, he whispered. "The quarantine world. You're from the quarantine world." "What's a quarantine world?" Gentara asked. The dean looked up from the datapad. "A planet so hostile to life that the Galactic Council declared it off-limits to all contact. We assumed no intelligent species could possibly have evolved there." He looked at Marcus with new eyes. "We were wrong." Marcus smiled. "My people have been exploring the galaxy for decades, sir. We just don't usually mention where we come from. It tends to make others nervous." "You let us put you on Kronos Prime," the dean said slowly. "A world we use to test our best students. And for you it was..." A nice camping trip, Marcus finished. The dean was quiet for a long time. Then he asked the question that would change everything. How many of you are there? How many humans are in academy space? Marcus thought about his answer carefully. Enough, he said finally. We're teachers, scientists, engineers, traders. We work quietly and try not to draw attention to ourselves. Because you're afraid we'll panic when we learn the truth? Marcus looked around at his classmates, who had spent 3 years thinking he was just the quiet kid from a farming world. Wouldn't you? As the rescue ships prepared to depart, Marcus's friends gathered around him one last time. Will you still be the same quiet Marcus when we get back to the academy? Null asked. Marcus looked out at Kronos Prime's dangerous landscape one more time. For the first time in 3 years, he had remembered what it felt like to be truly alive. No, he said honestly. I don't think I can go back to pretending to be harmless. Elena 9 smiled. Good. The universe is dangerous enough without its protectors hiding in the shadows. As their ship left Kronos Prime's atmosphere, Marcus watched the Deathworld shrink behind them. Soon he would be back in the safe, civilized galaxy where people thought planets like this were impossible nightmares. But now his friends knew the truth, and soon others would know too. Humans weren't just another species in the galactic community. They were survivors from a world that would terrify the creatures that terrified everyone else. The quiet kid was done being quiet. It was time for the galaxy to meet Earth's children.